3 ways to lower your tax bill in retirement. Today we're going to cover tax diversification. What is it and how to achieve it? We'll walk you through the case study of a woman who plans to spend $100,000 a year. Plus, we'll take a detailed look at how Roth Conversions can add tax-free income to your retirement. Welcome to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Sean Honkamp and Lauren Merkel. They're both certified financial fiduciaries and certified financial planners. Sean is also a CPA. So guys, I think we're really good about telling people sometimes what they need, right? You'll say, you need tax diversification and you need tax diversification. But then sometimes at home you're going, okay, I need it, but what is it? So not only today do we want to tell people what it is and how they can achieve it, but let's set it up first, kind of why it's important.
Yeah, tax diversification really is a foreign topic for most people, which is why it's one of the most overlooked types of diversification going into retirement and as a part of retirement planning. Because when we think about diversification, if you think about it over the course of your investing career, you're probably thinking about diversification as how do you diversify your investments, right? We need some small companies, some large companies, some international, some domestic. That feels like diversification. And most people don't know that they can create that type of diversification only from a tax standpoint. So simply what this is you have different buckets of money that you take income from in the course of your retirement that is taxed differently. So you take a little income from this bucket, is taxed differently than the income you take from this bucket, and so on. So in this case study, we're going to demonstrate just a few different types of tax buckets, but there are more. And this will highlight the importance of doing tax planning prior to going to retirement, because the more planning you can put into place, the higher probability you're going to have different buckets that you can draw from when you need this income and take control over your retirement tax bill.
Okay, let's introduce everybody to Sherri. You ready?
We're ready.
Okay, here's Sherri. Sherri's part of the case study. So here's, I think, what's going on with Sherri. Sherri, maybe it doesn't really matter so much if she has Social Security, she's using it, but really what she's identified is she needs to take $100,000 out of her investments and to live the lifestyle that she wants. That's the setup for Sherri. And then we're going to look at 3 different ways Sherri does it and the outcomes of those 3 different scenarios.
Yeah, let's take a look at scenario 1 for Sherri. So in this case, Sherri's going to take $100,000 out, and she's going to take all of that from her traditional IRA. So every dollar that comes out of that is going to be fully taxable to Sherri. This might be very common. This might be what your situation looks like. Most people have a majority of their retirement savings in pre-tax accounts. These would be your traditional 401ks that a lot of you have access to through your employer. This would be the traditional IRAs that a lot of us might choose to use outside of the employer accounts. So in scenario 1 for Sherri, she takes that $100,000 out. It's all taxed as ordinary income for her. That's going to leave her with $87,000 to spend and cover her retirement lifestyle.
Which isn't too bad. I mean, if you think about it, Sherri has saved really well, where she can feel comfortable. Her plan says she can afford to take $100,000 out. She's done very well. And she gets to spend $87,000 of that. Not too bad. The question is, can she do better? And with the planning, the tax planning going into retirement, she can. So scenario 2, she's done a little bit more planning and she's created 2 different buckets, which she's now created some tax diversification. She still has the pre-tax bucket, the bucket she had before. She'll take $50,000 out of that bucket, but prior to going to retirement, and maybe even a little bit into retirement, she's done some Roth conversions, maybe some Roth contributions. So she has this Roth bucket that she's also going to take $50,000 out of. Now that $50,000 she takes from the Roth, that is tax-free. So now Sherri is only paying tax on that $50,000 from the pre-tax, which means her spendable income from the same $100,000 distribution went from $87,000 up to $96,000. So way better. The 87 wasn't bad, but we would all agree 96 is way better.
Yeah, that's a $9,000 difference. That could be an extra trip or something fun in retirement.
Yeah, absolutely can allow her to increase that level of lifestyle that people want to have in retirement.
Scenario number 3.
In scenario number 3, now to your point, Lauren, Sherri's wondering, can she do better? Or is there more tax diversification out there that you should be thinking about? And that's exactly what Sherri had set up for scenario number 3. She's still got that pre-tax bucket, she's got the Roth bucket, but now she's got another bucket called the non-qualified bucket where she can consider taking distributions from in any given year. So in scenario number 3, Sherri takes $30,000 out of that pre-tax bucket, fully taxable as ordinary income. Sherri takes $40,000 out of the Roth bucket, which is our favorite bucket, completely tax-free. And then Sherri also takes an additional $30,000 out of this non-qualified bucket, which is taxed differently than both of the prior two buckets. So that's something we can get into a little more. But Sherri takes all these distributions from this really strong tax diversified plan that she has, and this leaves her with $98,000 of total net spend to cover her lifestyle.
And it's only $2,000 more, but if you add that up over a 20 or 30-year retirement, $2,000 more each year is significant.
Well, and think about how long it took you to make that $2,000. And yeah, you're right. We're talking about $2,000 each year over the course of your retirement. Going way back to when the Roth IRA was created, the maximum contribution limit to the Roth IRA was only $2,000. So $2,000 can be really meaningful, and you've worked so hard for this money. You've been disciplined. You've saved for this money. You put some effort into your tax plan. Let's get as much out of this as we possibly can. And by creating that tax diversification in a really intentional way is how people like Sherri can get the most out of it.
And I want to make sure we do talk about how people can create these buckets, and that's what we're going to get to. But let's go back to non-qualified just real quick. Not an everyday term. Remind me what kind of investments are non-qualified, and maybe a little high level on the taxable nature of those kind of investments.
Yeah, what most of us have, the non-qualified buckets that most of you are going to be familiar with, is any bank account that you have. Almost all of us would have a checking account, savings account. That's where our paychecks go. Those by their nature are non-qualified accounts, and it's really the opposite of qualified. Any money that you save into an employer account, 401k, or use the outside accounts, IRAs, those are considered qualified accounts because they fall underneath a qualified plan in the eyes of the IRS. So the non-qualified accounts are going to be your bank accounts, and then once you get enough money there, most people will look beyond that. Maybe we're going to open a brokerage account or just what is considered really an investment account. So it's the accounts that hold the money that don't first go into a qualified plan or into an IRA.
So Sherri's situation obviously was specific to her. That was a hypothetical example, but you could see she had $10,000 plus more dollars to spend each year with some tax planning. What does your situation look like? Maybe there's an opportunity for you to have more money to spend in retirement. You can speak directly with a retirement planner by scheduling a Retire Ready call. Go to retirereadycall.com right there. What you'll see is a calendar. Click on a time, click on a date, and then you're one step closer to talking about your retirement vision. It's a casual conversation with a retirement planner about what's on your mind. We'll talk about how to create that tax diversification next. Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Sean Honkamp and Lauren Merkel. We're talking about 3 ways to lower your tax bill in retirement. Number 1, tax diversification. Let's go back to Sherri, scenario 3. The best one for Sherri is she had the most amount of money to spend. And look at those 3 tax buckets one more time, because I'm curious, Sean, about how that non-qualified money's taxed.
Yeah, Sherri has those pre-tax buckets. When she takes distributions from there, it's fully taxable as ordinary income. Sherri also has the Roth bucket bill. That's our favorite one. She takes distributions from there, 0 tax. And then Sherri has the non-qualified accounts built as well. We talked about how a lot of people, their bank accounts people have, those are non-qualified funds. That's easy. When you take cash out of your bank, there's no taxes at all. But then some of you are going to be having investment accounts that hold some of those non-qualified funds, and those are taxed even differently.
Yeah, and some of those would be the brokerage accounts. So you have the investments, your mutual funds, ETFs, individual stocks underneath a brokerage account, which is non-IRA. And the way that the distributions, your income from that brokerage account is taxed can be different. So if we apply this back to Sherri, in this example, we could say that $30,000 income from the non-qualified was 100% capital gains tax, but because she was in the 12% federal tax bracket, she was taxed at 0% capital gains. But if her planning was different, she could have been taxed at 15% capital gains or even 20% capital gains, or if her plan really wasn't on point, she could have been taxed at ordinary income, which could have been 22, 24, even up to 37%. So that brokerage account income can be taxed really anywhere between 0 to 37%. The difference of what it's taxed is the amount of planning that you put into it. And in Sherri's case, she had a really good plan put in place. So that full $30,000 realized long-term capital gain was taxed at 0.
Okay, so guys, a lot of people watching are like, I want scenario 3. I want to do what Sherri did. I want that tax diversification. Well, this doesn't happen overnight. There's some planning ahead of retirement that needs to happen. And one way to get some of that tax diversification is a Roth conversion. What's a Roth conversion?
A Roth conversion is where you take money from the pre-tax 401k or pre-tax IRA and you shift it over into a Roth IRA or Roth 401k plan. Now, in the year that you make that conversion, you make that shift, you are taxed on the amount of money that you convert over. So if Sherri decides she wants to convert $25,000 from a pre-tax IRA to a Roth IRA, she will pay taxes on that $25,000 in the year that she converts. The benefit to Sherri is that once it's over in the Roth IRA, it grows tax-free forever. And then later down the road, a qualified distribution from that Roth IRA is 100% federally tax-free. That's the power of the Roth IRA, the Roth conversion for Sherri, but she wants to be very intentional in that year of conversion. She wants to make sure she's converting the right amount so she doesn't pay too much tax on the conversion. And she wants to make sure that she is in the right tax bracket for that conversion. That's where the planning comes into play.
As we look at this as buckets too, so we've got this Roth bucket. A Roth conversion is one way to have that Roth bucket of money, but there are a couple of other ways that people can, accumulate Roth money as well.
Yeah, one of the other main ways to build up Roth funds is the Roth contribution. So the main two ways to build that you can do contributions are into your 401k if they provide you with that Roth option. So that's something you want to be aware of. We get these questions all the time. The traditional 401k has been around much longer. The Roth 401k is newer. So for a lot of people, you've been on autopilot, you've been making those contributions into the traditional side of the 401k, and we get those questions all the time. But now's the time to start looking at that and make that decision. Does it make more sense for you to continue doing what you're doing, or now the opportunity to start shifting those contributions to the Roth 401k? And then the Roth IRA is the other option where new money, new contributions can be made into these Roth vehicles so that over time you can accumulate and build more and more Roth dollars.
And sometimes one of the questions we get is, well, what should I do? Should I contribute to the Roth IRA? Should I contribute to the Roth 401k plan or the pre-tax? And there are some restrictions around the Roth IRA. Not everybody has the ability to contribute to a Roth IRA. As an example, if you're single and your income is below $150,000, then you can contribute the full amount to the Roth. But if it's above $150,000, you're phased out where you can't contribute as much, or maybe you can even contribute zero to the Roth IRA. If you're married, that income level is $236,000. So you have to be aware of what those contribution restrictions are. And then also with the 401k plan, if you have an employer match involved with that contribution, that could incentivize you to make the contribution to the Roth or pre-tax 401k as opposed to the Roth IRA. So all of those factors need to be considered.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into this. So we're talking about 3 ways to lower your tax bill in retirement. We've got tax diversification. The number 2, what we just covered, was Roth conversions. And guys, I do feel like all of this, any of these decisions we talked about, Sherri, it's very specific to each situation. A Roth conversion may be right for another person. Well, maybe more of a Roth 401k route is right for another. And a Retire Ready call, Sean, is a great opportunity to talk about your specific situation or the specific situation questions that you have.
Yeah, it's a really comfortable, easy way for you to have interaction with someone on our team. We know a lot of you might just have some questions you're facing, just like we talked about. Maybe your company is now offering a Roth 401k for the first time, or you've continued to increase your income as you've gone through your career, and now you're wondering, should you start considering these Roth vehicles? So that Retire Ready call gives you a great opportunity to get to interact with us, answer any initial questions people might have. Maybe you're facing a decision point right now, or just learn more about who we are as retirement planners, what we all do, and how we can help you build that comprehensive retirement plan so that you can feel more and more confident about your retirement journey as time goes on.
Lauren, who should schedule a Retire Ready call?
If you're age 57 or older and you're curious about what a retirement plan could look like for you, then the Retire Ready call could be a great place to get started. One of the hardest parts about building a retirement plan is just getting started. What is the best way, easiest way for you to do so? And that's why we built the Retire Ready call, because it's not intimidating. Sometimes talking to an advisor for the first time is very intimidating, right? You don't know are they just going to try to sell me something, right? There's all kinds of thoughts. That's not the way this is. It's a casual conversation that's customized to you, what you're trying to accomplish, and there's no pressure to do anything. Worst case scenario, you gain more information about you, about strategies you can implement, and best case scenario is you're on your way to build out that retirement plan, and you have a really customized, comprehensive plan going forward to help you accomplish your retirement.
You can schedule a Retire Ready call at retirereadycall.com. When you get there, you'll see a calendar. Then you choose a date and then a time that works for you. And then a member of our team will reach out and you can get answers to your retirement questions. We'll continue to talk about 3 ways to lower your tax bill in retirement next. Welcome back to Retiring Today. I'm Molly Nelson here with Sean Honkamp and Lauren Merkel. We're talking about 3 ways to lower your tax bill in retirement. We've covered tax diversification. We've covered Roth conversions. And now number 3 is have a long-term tax plan. And this is contrary to the way you've been thinking about taxes for so many years.
Because most of the time we're looking at our tax plan within a very short window of context, meaning that when you filed your taxes for 2025, you were looking at what kind of taxable income you had in 2024, maybe putting some strategies into place to decrease that prior to April 15th or before you filed, and that's really about it. What we're talking about and what Sherri engaged in was a long-term tax plan that looked back prior year, but more importantly, looked at current year and looked at strategies that she could implement the following year, the year after, in 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And by looking forward, she can predict what her things like RMDs are. How much money is she going to be mandated to take out of her pre-tax accounts at the age of 73 or 75? She's going to be able to predict with some degree of confidence what kind of tax rates she will be in if she engages in tax strategies versus if she doesn't engage in these tax strategies. And that's how Sherri could implement the strategies that she implemented with confidence, knowing that she was doing the right things right now, even though in her case, it cost her a little bit of extra tax money up front because she engaged in some of the Roth conversions, but she could see the bundle of money it was going to save her over the course of her retirement. And that's what a long-term tax plan is. And that's the benefit of having that long-term tax plan: confidence, accurate strategies, and a decreased retirement tax bill.
And I think the good news for anybody who's watching is you don't have to predict what your tax bill is going to be. That's what you do for people, Rashawn. That's what you do for people. In the visits, you'll say, hey, let's look at this. And you put up a bunch of scenarios and you're like, this is what your tax bill could look like if we don't do this. But if we do this, they don't have to know, because that's the part that you work on for them.
The tools we utilize within our process are so valuable and helpful. It gives us this information. I mean, what I was thinking about when you were talking, Lauren, is that it's important to know that tax filing is much different than tax planning. Tax filing is that transaction. It's the year's over, we're looking backwards, like you said, whereas tax planning, this is where you need to have all that information about what the next 20, 30 or so years will look like. Our programs that we use help us obtain that information so that we can look long-term, and all we're trying to do is get the best information so that we can implement and identify and implement the opportunities and strategies that make the most sense this year.
And that tax plan is a physical, written, living, breathing document. So it's not just Sean, you and I saying, Sherri, I think you should do this strategy, or I think you should do this strategy. We have our opinions, we give our recommendations, we give our advice, but Sherri can also see it. She can see what if we engage in this type of Roth conversion, what's the tax implications right now, what does that mean to her 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. So when we make our recommendations, Sherri can say, yes, I hear that, but she can also say, yes, I see it, and she can take that document with her to also remind her later down the road why she did what she did.
It's also, we can't talk about tax planning without talking about income planning and investment planning, because they're so closely intertwined.
Yeah, that's part of our retire secure roadmap that we talk about is retirement planners. There's 6 different pillars that are part of our process that we help all of you with. And as we're making these tax decisions, that's been a heavy focus of what we've been talking about today. We know there's so much overlap with the other pieces that are part of the plan. So the tax decisions are going to be part of your income plan. They're also part of your investment plan. They're going to end up being part of your healthcare plan, because how much taxable income you show can impact your Medicare Part B premiums. It's part of your legacy plan. So all of these 6 areas are so critical. They overlap, they interact, and that's where you need to be looking at that comprehensive view to make sure that you've got all the information. And all we're trying to do as we go along is make smart, informed decisions to help you maximize everything that you have.
Yeah, here it is. It's the Retire Secure Roadmap. That's the visual representation of exactly what you just explained, Sean. And that's a look at a comprehensive plan. And taxes are an important pillar on there, but all those pillars work together.
They all work together, and they always change. They always change because there's a lot of legislative changes. There's a lot of changes that take place in your life from year to year. So the plan that you initially set up works really well for that snapshot point in time. But the next year, things could happen, and your plan needs to be revised to accurately reflect the position you're in your life at that particular time, the current legislative, and your goals as they change as well. So each and every year, your Retire Secure roadmap should be updated to accurately reflect the entire environment that you're in. So it's not a set it and forget it type plan, because your life is not set it and forget it. And there always needs to be that marriage together.
How do CPAs play into all of this? Because a lot of people file with a CPA or a tax preparer each year. How does this work?
It needs to work together. So it's not uncommon that we do work with the families and individuals that we serve their CPA. We also have a CPA in-house besides Sean who files taxes, which makes it really easy for us because we're sitting right next to that CPA who understands the full tax picture. But whether that CPA is in-house or outside of us, we need to work with that CPA to get the full tax plan put in place to make sure we're taking advantage of all the strategies that are present now and strategies that we feel or would be present down the road as well, much like the attorney, the estate planning attorney. So to put together this plan, the legacy documents like the will and the trust, those need to be written by an attorney. So we can work hand in hand with the attorney to make sure the legacy plans that people want to be put in place have the documents associated with those plans to work hand in hand together. So a full team should be a planner, a CPA, as well as a legacy planning attorney.
I want to talk about Sherri one more time. Look at Sherri. She's happy. Sherri's happy because in scenario 3, she had the more money to spend on retirement. So someone watching Sean right now might be going, oh, is it too late for me to get that tax diversification? I know you just had this exact conversation in a Retire Ready call about the timing of all of this.
Yeah, that was a recent Retire Ready call where I was on the phone with a couple. They're in their early 60s. They're hearing all about this Roth, and they talk to me and say, Sean, is it too late? You're hearing from other people that they haven't built up enough Roth, and now in your early 60s, you might think that's behind you. And the truth is, it's never too late. We're making these Roth decisions because of the tax favored opportunities that we have. So if it ever in any year of your life, in any year of your retirement journey, if you have an opportunity to move money from pre-tax to Roth, we can pay off Uncle Sam on those dollars at a favorable tax rate. That's something you want to be aware of. You want to identify those opportunities, take advantage of them whenever you can. And ultimately what that does as you continue through retirement is that gives you more control. It's because you have more options. When you have these tax diversified buckets, now you've got choices to make. You've got options that no matter what the tax rates do in the future, if they stay where they're at or if they increase, now you've got these different buckets that you can utilize to help you be more efficient with the total distributions you take. And just like in Sherri's scenarios, net a higher amount that you can apply and spend for your lifestyle.
And I know you've heard you talk about this with that Roth conversion strategy, Lauren. Sometimes it's 1 year, sometimes it's laid out over several years. It's just dependent on each person.
It's dependent upon each person, and it's also dependent upon the decisions that you're going to make with these other areas of your plan. How much income do you need to take out? What are you going to do from a Social Security strategy standpoint? If you're married, you might have up to 81 different options. What are you going to do from a Medicare election? Because the income that you have coming in could influence the premiums that you pay for Medicare. What do you want to leave behind for the kids? What's your legacy goals? All of that will influence the types of plans that you put in together, which is why it's so imperative to make sure you have a written plan in place that addresses all 5 of those pillars to make sure you can have the 6th pillar, the lifestyle pillar, as you want. Those 5 pillars are how you're going to be able to have the lifestyle. That written plan is the conduit to do that. And that's why the Retire Ready call is so important, because it's a great place to get started with creating what your retirement plan looks like.
You can schedule a Retire Ready call by going to retirereadycall.com. When you get there, you'll see a calendar. You just click on a date that works for you, then you select a time, and you're one step closer to talking about your retirement. This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click here for more great content from our team. Don't forget to subscribe to continue to receive helpful information for your retirement planning.